Hey, hello everybody, and it's time for Tarot for Our Times. Earlier today, I watched a video with Mel Dore, Lena Rodriguez, and Deanne. Very, very good commentary on current events. And Lena Rodriguez said something at the end, near the end of the video, that I found so inspiring. It's so simple, but yet very profound, that has inspired what the video is going to be for today. And she said, "Courage is courageous." And of course, as you can see in the thumbnail, the Strength card figures very prominently with the faces of some of the more courageous people in Congress, and with Bernie Sanders. So I picked Strength because in just about all the decks that you find, there is the woman taming the beast, the lion, and this is a very courageous thing for her to do. But she manages to approach him in such a way, and so she does calm the beast. And the beast is, I don't know if we'll ever be able to tame it or calm it. Of course, the beast is MAGA and all the henchmen involved with that. And so we want to see if when there's going to be a leader that emerges from the Democrats and the Republicans too, to put up a real resistance against FOTUS, the muskrat, the muskratettes, and the Doge Boys, and all of that. I think we're coming close, because it wasn't too long after that, and I would try my editing skills to splice it in, but it's been on so many videos and all over the news. The people in a very red district in Georgia really calling out their MAGA representative, and he was just pretty much there with egg on his face. And these people are very Republican, very conservative, and they were saying things like, what does digging through all our records do with the price of eggs? And we didn't vote for conquering sovereign nations, and we did. I mean, they pretty much shouted this guy down, and he looked like such a fool. So I will say that courage is pretty contagious, because for anybody to speak against the administration in a red state, that's a lot of guts. It takes a lot of guts to do that. So I have to say that maybe if you could see the whole thing, maybe just with one person raising their voice, it's like it really caught on. I mean, there were the booing him and the cheering of the person that had enough courage. So thing is that interesting, at the beginning of the video, they talked about things are happening so fast, and that can work to our advantage, because as fast as they go up, they can come down. And Mel did talk about Mussolini, and I know that, well, Mussolini terrorized Italy from 1922 until 1945, but they didn't have the internet and YouTube and all the other social media. So had they had that, he probably wouldn't have lasted for 23 years. It's amazing if this is going to even last for 23 months, but we will have to see about that. So I just want to do a couple of spreads on well, the first one is the leader that's going to emerge, because we've had some pretty wussy Dems. I mean, I'm from Pennsylvania, and we got good old Fetterman, who what a disappointment he's turned out to be. And I'm sure that and it's I'm sure there are Democrats that are very against this, but they haven't been vocal. Like, not too many of them, but I'm going to say, I think that when you get a Jasmine Crockett and AOC and then Elizabeth Warren over in the Senate. God, you notice they're all women. But we have Jamie Raskin and, some other people too that in the male persuasion who are doing their bit as well. So I'm going to say this could be catching on. Courage could become contagious, and when the Republicans, even the ones that are beholden to MAGAs, shall I say, I just have to wonder what's going through their minds when they see what happened in Georgia today. Like, these voters are not a given so much anymore. I mean, dare I say, Alabama and Mississippi? I mean, could they be next? I mean, I know that Georgia's kind of purplish with with two Democratic senators, but they do have their those are the cities like Atlanta, Savannah, but they do have this is a very rural red district. So, I found it interesting that after seeing what Lena Rodriguez said, and then, flipping over to another one, and I'm going, wow, things are happening fast. Maybe courage will spread like a pandemic. So what I want to see is about when the leaders, I think they are, when will they be emerging against the FOTUS, the muskrat, and I can't even bear to name the others, but let's see. Okay, so got these shuffled up pretty well. And let's see what we have here. We have the world in reverse. And to me, the world in reverse is about the unfinished business. The cycle is not complete. You're not ready to go on. A lot of it is, but you're not ready to go on to the next phase until the cycle is complete. But I'm going to say that gap seems to be getting a little bit narrower. And I would say that this is pretty much the energy right now, is that, and I think it has to do with those people in Georgia saying, where the price is coming down. There's been nothing to do. I mean, this is not what we got on board for by electing, I forget his name. He's a doctor too. But at any rate, that's all I know. But so let's see what energy we have with this. Is like, this is the Seven of Wands. And this is position. This, I'm going to say, represents people that are fed up. Because in the end, with our vote, we do have the upper hand against the powers that be. And I know that there is some hinky stuff going on and everybody's nervous about next year's elections. But this is very much the little guy coming up against all the big money and the oligarchs. So that's kind of what's going on right now. And I as I say, stay tuned. There's more to come. So in opposition to that, we have the Hierophant in reverse, which means that, many of my colleagues talk about the tearing down of the old institutions to make way for the new. I will say that they are going to be shaken up, and as people get more discontented and everything, and could it be that the Supreme Court may be listening? Because, face it, their legacy is in the crapper, and with a number of them getting ready to retire, I don't think they want to leave it like the worst Supreme Court since the Dred Scott decision in I think it was around 1850, somewhere around 1850. That and that was a really bad Supreme. That was like the worst decision, saying that slaves were not human. I mean, basically, or they were only a percentage of human, and this sort of thing. So I think in the tearing down of the institutions, that's all about they can't exist the way they are now. Now, the way that the muskrat and his little muskrats are trying to do it, that's total destruction. But I see with this in reverses, they can't go on the same way that they are. Constitution is a great document, and we do need the three branches and the separations of power, but I do believe that perhaps that there will be laws that says that nothing like this can ever happen again. So let me see what's beneath that. Okay. Okay, this is a rather charitable card. I'm get I what I'm guessing out of this is that if the government isn't going to help us, those we need to start helping each other, and we may be in bad straits, but if we can just maybe only a few dollars to help out the less fortunate with no strings attached. If it's in reverse, it is strings attached. But this could be bringing out people's better natures, and also maybe to put the government to shame while we're at it as a bonus. And so we have here, oh, the death card. The death card, this is not sustainable. This whole thing that's been going on for a month is not sustainable. And there's going to be some shakeups as the death card marches through. It's going to be like this religious figure, which I'm going to say are the evangelical fake Christians. That's got to go. This is interesting. They have the king is dead, long live the king, which is what I see. And that's usually about some very major ideas that we have about things that must go. I'm going to say that there is a very big, and that, which I just got like a little psychic hit from the guides, that some very major leader is going to be, it's going to be checkout time for some, whether it's Trump or Putin or who knows, maybe even the muskrat. It looks like he's been hitting whatever he gets from the drugstore pretty heavy. So, and other psychics have seen that there will be a major world leader that will be, curtains, bye-bye. So, which is going to really change things. And, and it's the whole thing, like we've got to stop acting like a bunch of spoiled children, because death is on the march, often referred to as the fifth night of the tarot, to head to the ever-loving pillars of the tarot that appear in a number of cards to transformation. And there are things that have got to go, and so we can move at things that have got to end so we can have a new beginning. So I'm going to say it could, generally speaking, it is the death of a lot of things that we no longer need. Oh, dare I say, these contributions in the Citizens United, that somehow that decision has got to go. I would say that if we can flip both houses of Congress, I think that that's going to be on the agenda, because this is the result of all that corrupted money from oligarchs that the Supreme Court a number of years ago said, yeah, First Amendment. Oh, here we go. Taking a big look at the delusions and the smoke screens that have been thrown up in people's faces. This is what happened in Georgia today. They were confronted with all of this BS. And I'm going to say that there was a transformation. The energy was just absolutely incredible. And it's like right up there in their faces. They've got to see it like they have been had. They had all of these promises made, like big fantasy pie in the sky stuff, and now they're looking at let's conquer Canada, that kind of stuff. So This is kind of what's below the wrapping up of this cycle, and the death card is saying, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it. So the death card's interesting because I mean, in a personal reading, you wouldn't dare say, "Oh well, your father's going to die." I mean, that's so. But when we're doing these kinds of readings, public figures that we don't know, they're kind of fair game. But that's why I do feel that this is really jumping out and saying someone big is going to die this year, maybe before the year is half over, but so there's going to be a biggie, a major biggie. Okay, so in the past, with this, we've had this wowie for people to see things that this whole phony baloney make America great again BS is, and we're going to go back to white America of the 1950s. That's been turned on its head. That's been turned on its head. So I'm going to say a big thing here is like kind of putting an end to that fantasy. Watch Leave It to Beaver and I Love Lucy if you want, because they're very good entertainment, but to know that's not real now, and if you're old enough to remember, that wasn't real then. So I mean, to realize that there's nothing you're going to be going back to. That's what's going to be flipping people and so I'm seeing this as the people putting the pressure on the representatives, like, you cannot try to sell us this stuff because we're not buying it. We're just not buying it. So I'm really seeing this a lot as people waking up and putting pressure and saying, what they said, you want to be, you forget it, you're done. That's what I got, is like, there is no way that guy's gonna get his behind primaried the next time he's up. Okay, so on the conscious thoughts, it's kind of like a lot of this stuff we held dear it's dead. It's on the coffin, it's dead. And the sword saying, we've got to get some new ideas for some rebirth. Now, I'm sure a lot of people will still be conservatives, but that's not the issue. The issue is that they have not been able to, where the few of them have been able to see, is that we need to have our party back and we need to have our country back. It's like, if you ever watch Michael Steele podcasts, and he used to be the chairman of the Republican Party a number of years ago, he has not wanted any of this MAGA stuff. And he's, he and, George Conway and some of the others, Bill Kristol, I mean, they're stepping up and saying, we're still conservatives, but the kind of conservatives where you could talk to them and maybe make you give a little, they take, and you give and take. But they're saying that the Republican Party that we knew is dead. It's dead. So a number of them have become independents, or they're in, I call them in Republican hibernation, and they're saying, we got to get rid of this first. Then we can all go back to arguing again. So this is the conscious thoughts. Subconscious thoughts. Oh boy. There is a big emotional thing that's just waiting to spill over. I think people are building up like a big pressure cooker, and it's not, as I say, not only the Dems, but as I think in that morning discussion that I saw earlier, it was really people in red areas and rural areas, that when they see their children dying because they're not getting their vaccines, to seeing their insulin going back up astronomically, all of these things, all it takes is some funerals that they're going to have to pass the hat to, to be able to do all kinds of things that it's, if you thought that people erupted from January 6th, that's nothing compared to what's boiling up inside of them. All they need is just a little more time to have some very tragic things happen. And it has to happen, of course, to them on a personal level. And then it will be an absolute tsunami of boom, or a volcano and a tsunami at the same time. This is building up inside in the subconscious level. So then we have presently people are not balancing their money, and Congress is not balancing their budget, and their none of this, the firings and all this stuff, it's not going to make any difference. And so they're beginning to see that. I would say that this represents the big budget fight that's going to be coming up in just a few weeks, and which means that there could be a government shutdown. So the Two of Pentacles in reverse is telling me that that it's going to be very hard for them to get things resolved. We may go through that, and guess who owns that? I don't think it'll be for long, because I mean, we've been through there with the last FOTUS administration. So, because the Democrats are not going to bail them out. We don't want to bail them out. They need to own this. Know that if they want to cut Social Security, whatever kind of crazy stuff they're putting in that budget, that's going to be a big no. And I do believe that in the Senate there probably will be a filibuster over this. I think I want to do one more. And this is also representing the people, because of the sky-high grocery stuff that they vote. That's why they voted for him. They're not making ends meet with their so the government and people are not making ends meet with their own bills. And I understand, I heard that banks are starting to bitch about people are defaulting on their credit cards. I mean, that's the first little canary in the coal mine. It's like, when you got bills to pay, the credit cards go very low. You want to keep your house, you want to keep the car. Credit cards, nope, not high on the priority. Okay, so presently, yeah, there is heartbreak. But I'm going to say that, the little light and behind this in the storm, and it is in reverse, is that I think as people really catch on and they let their representatives to know how they feel, that this heartache and the betrayal that they feel is going to be lessened, knowing they're going to get through the storm, knowing the power that they have over these people, which I think is finally starting to get, it's starting to sink in. And plus the fact that in reverse, gravity pulls those swords come out, but the scars will remain. That's the thing. So good old hopes and fears. The King of Wands. Some readers have said this is the muskrat, and I'm kind of vibrating towards that. People had hopes, and he looked really good to people in the beginning. I don't know what this thing is, why people think that billionaires are so great. I think most of them are scumbags, but at any rate, so they had hopes, but now that they see what he's doing, they're fearful for their accounts being snooped in. They're fearful for a lot of things that he's doing. I want to do a clarifier on him, to see what's going on with him. Well, we have the Fool. I'm going to say that he took a risk with, for now, he took a risk with FOTUS. he's like the easiest mark. I mean, look at these world leaders. I mean, this was a piece of cake. Absolutely a piece of cake. But it's getting to the point where that could be his only ally, and that's really shaky. That's real. But for now, he's the fool upright. I think the fool is going to go into reverse when everybody turns on him, and I don't see that in the too distant future. Okay, so what's going to happen soon? Aha. Five of Swords in reverse. That is all of these people that are robbing us blind. That's not going to last. It's in reverse. It's not going to last. They're going to get caught, and it's always interesting to see how that in the various decks they do have the people that are on the beach that are just exiting, and to me those were his followers, and both the muskrat and Fotis, those are the followers, and as they have gone on with their reign of terrors, they're losing people. This represents the people they're losing. I mean, look how dejected they look, and looks like that they like this guy has got all the stuff that they're losing and they have nothing. This may be starting to sink in, and I'm not going to say it's everywhere, but it's starting to sink in. And I would also say that these could be these representatives that they're losing the voters. That they're losing the voters. That's what's happening. And so, how is this gonna end? Oh boy, here we go with Hot Devil. Okay. Hot Devil is not gonna look so hot and tempting anymore to the voters, and they're going to realize they have had a choice in not having to be chained to this. So I'm going to say that in this respect, for this reading, it's people realizing that the devil isn't so hot anymore, and especially following this guy in reverse, they're taking they're unchaining themselves from Fotis and the muskrat. So what do we learn? What have we learned from this? That that's the funniest Three of Cups I've seen. That there will be cause for celebration as people get the clue, but they're kind of scattered. So I'm going to say after whatever happens, people are people are going to have to gain their focus again. That's people are going to have to gain a focus so this doesn't happen again, or at least it doesn't happen again for the next I'm going to say 80 or 90 years, because all these astrologers are saying the planets are in the same time, a place when Hitler came to power. But I would say, and Mussolini and all of this sort of thing, but I would say that believing in free will and knowing that history, and trust me, that history is very fresh in Europe's mind. I mean, people are, the people that are around today, their grandparents went through that. It used to be their parents. Now it's their grandparents, and some of them, the ones that were kids, little kids during that time, there are a number of them that are still alive, but people that do in Europe, they do remember. I've traveled enough to know, even recently, that memory is fresh. And when Putineska wants to ride roughshod over Ukraine, and then that idiot wants us to think it's all their fault, all of Ukraine's fault. Europeans aren't buying it. It's too fresh. There's still things around. There's the energy. My God, the energy's still around after 80 years after the war ended and everything. And there are monuments like everywhere you turn around, in all these countries that were occupied by the Nazis. I mean, the memory is it's unbelievably fresh. So I think that what's going to happen is that now that people are seeing the evil that this administration is, when they just thought he was kind of a buffoon and this too shall pass, and now they're taking him seriously with all the secret meetings and all this sort of thing. So, you know, the point that I want to make is that Europe is trying to not have history repeat itself, since there still are people alive that remembered it. And so what we want to look at it is when people rise up, and this courage is which courage being contagious, when it spreads. I think it already started with some fairly large demonstrations at the beginning of the week, but it's there to push the people that make the laws, and maybe to encourage people that are working for these god-awful cabinet members to, maybe they need to meet in secret and not be so compliant. So this goes to, now that's going to take some real courage, but people have started. I mean, those people in the Southern District of New York who say, no, we're not dropping the charges against that mayor. There's enough evidence. We need to find out if, in fact, he did all those things. So, you know, what's going to come out of it? Because I think things are moving so fast that people really are catching on. And here we have that with the strength, the courage, it's catching. I mean, ask people that, and I've known people that, ask those that were in the resistance or have, you know, children and grandchildren who are still with us, who remember all the stories of how brave their parents or grandparents were, and how it caught on. Like, people started cooperating. It was very dangerous, very, very dangerous to do that with the Gestapo around. So I want to see now, what is this going to look like when this courage spreads like the pandemic did 5 years ago? We can use that as the metaphor. So, oops, I almost forget to do this. Okay, so we have to start with the Knight of Swords in reverse. I'm going to say the thing that hits me with this is these are the lying knights. This is the muskrat and his muskrats, and the swords that are he's just lying like a rug, and yep, that's definitely the muskrat leading his musketeers, and lying. But I will have to say that people are not buying it anymore, so I'm going to say he's right out there with those lies. And okay, we have the Three of Wands. I'm going to say everybody's talking about March, the Ides of March, that there's going to be something that may be happening in connection with this. And I'm not going to say someone's going to ride on a big white horse and flip the election or anything like that, but I'm getting a sense something is going to happen in March where people can once again start to look out at the future. Now, those boats may be far out in the harbor, but you will catch sight of them. And it also means is looking across the sea to maybe start to do, maybe something will happen of a nature that maybe a few fences could be mended, or people talking, I don't know how, to our foreign people. I don't know how that's going to play out, but there may be a chance. Okay, so let's see what's lying beneath this thing. Okay, so we have Judgment. In reverse, I'm going to say that judgment in this instant is really the harsh judgment against a lot of people that people voted for. This is one of our cards of the year, which is up in, which I drew at the beginning of the year. Let's see, where did I put that? Where it is upright, and it's about kind of people waking up. And I think that today it does show people waking up, and that all of those people in Georgia, they were on the same page, and it's kind of like, oh, I get it now. We're starting to get it. So, but in reverse, in this instance, I'm going to say that it is very harsh judgment. Okay, so then we have, I think people are still going to be very worried about an uncertain future, but and I also think that as people change, they get something, we're going to call it the afterburn. It's like, oh my God, what am I doing? But you're doing it anyway because it has to be done. But people will worry about it because they're going to be outside the comfort zone, and that will probably make for some anxiety, sleepless nights, and weird dreams for a while. Then we have, the unveiling of seeing the toppling over the corrupt family business, which is, the Trump and the Muskrats and all of that stuff, and seeing it for what it is, and seeing that people have been getting robbed blind by these. Because I remember when that last supposed tax cut came in the first go round, is that his buddies, his rich buddies, all got tax cuts at the middle class. Well, it seemed like I was paying a little bit more, and I just, that's like, goes back to how could they, I mean, don't people remember how they got screwed? But at any rate, okay, here we go. In opposition is the Tower, and that means that while this is happening, we are in a Tower moment. I think that, with the way people have been reacting, that is a Tower moment. But I think what this is saying, that we need to have it more up in our faces for people to realize. And as I heard on like their babies are going to have to die. Grandma is not going to be able to get her insulin. And like that poor guy that died because he could inhale, he had to pay $500 for his inhaler. I think that these are the things that are going to be happening that are going to give people more courage to come on board with all of this. So, in the past, it's kind of finishing of a cycle, and this is interesting. The swords haven't quite gone in, but I want to say that I'm seeing this as more of people are changing. This is because tens are always the end of a cycle. People, and this is building up. This has been in the past. People are changing how they get their information. Now, granted, some of them have gone to the toxic right-wing stuff. There's a lot of that on YouTube. And Fox News is beating the rest because nobody can stand to watch CNN or MSNBC. It's like since the election, well, I guess people feel like they did get stabbed in the back because they didn't get real reporting. It's fine to report about Biden getting older, but hey, his opponent was only a couple years younger, and he was showing much more cognitive problems than Biden was. So this is part of this building up. So what this looks like in the past is people, those CNN and MSNBC are in a lot of trouble. So a lot of this building up and this is what this looks like, is people are not watching the same stuff they watched on November 4th, okay? So let's see, on the conscious level, oh, here we go. And you saw me shuffle that deck. On the conscious level is the Devil in reverse, again in reverse. And that is consciously now people are seeing the devil for what he is and not mistaking him for somebody else, which was the big problem. Finally seeing what the problem really is and moving away. So on the subconscious level, we have, again, moving away emotionally. I think what this is going to look like is that there was a lot of families splitting up. It kind of reminded me of those stories I used to read about the Civil War, one brother for the North and the other for the South. But I'm going to say that a lot of times this Eight of Cups is about walking away but returning to family. So I think on a subconscious level, people have wanted to kind of patch things up with family members because of how they voted, and maybe with seeing the light, that, yeah, again, it's kind of a deep down thing, but what this is going to say is that people might be walking away and taking the Trump signs out of the yard or burning them or whatever, and on a subconscious level, it's like, well, when the family members drive by, they won't see these anymore, but it's very subconscious. So this could mean looking like a return to family. So then on the present, we have the sun is in reverse. So people are, I think those that are becoming disenchanted are going to hold back because they're afraid of revealing, on the other side of the fence, revealing that to people who haven't even taken down their 2016 Trump sign. So there's going to be kind of a mistrust and not being quite open. So this is what I'm saying, is that although the courage thing will be contagious, it may not be courageous with certain people. So there's a little bit of a holding back. I feel like I need to do another one. It's the High Priestess in reverse, which means that people may be starting to look into the deep downs stuff inside of them that's not too attractive, which may be a way of saying, maybe I'll flip this sun right side up and have the courage to try to patch things up with the family that got harmed by my vote. That could take a little bit of time. So and maybe there's some closet anti-MAGAs and that sort of thing. It's funny. It's what it looks like. It's hard to say how many people are really starting to flip and get on board. So in the hopes and fears, we have the moon in reverse. And I think this gets down to kind of a deep psychological thing, like, wow, it's going to take a lot of courage for me to completely have to disavow certain values that I thought were really great. And again, that's a very big self-examining kind of thing. So I'm seeing that this process over the next few months is going to be maybe some soul searching that people didn't do, but it's hopeful. But then it's fear, about the fear of looking, that we all have, regardless of politics, the fear of looking at our shadow and confronting it. So I think this does well express hopes and fears. So let's see, coming up in the very immediate future, which could be 5 minutes from now, looking at, okay. Four of Pentacles in reverse, which coming after this, I have to say that this is, reluctantly letting go of some old values that they thought they would never let go of. And it's not going to be without pain that this happens. This is like, I didn't expect this all to be so deep and inner stuff kind of thing. But, sometimes this is all telling me that, it's one thing to go and send private messages. I'm thinking of old World War II movies, and, parachuting out of planes. That takes courage. But this stuff here, this is the courage that needs to happen. And in a way, that takes more courage before going and jumping, parachuting behind enemy lines. You've really got to deal with this stuff beforehand. So there could be a transformation of people again going into that higher consciousness. So let's see what's happening in the. Okay, I think what this is saying, that these wands in reverse tell me that people are going to stop doing what they have been doing, and which was that knee-jerk reaction that the red state people live in. And what have we learned from this is that, again, interesting, now it comes up in the other, is learning about whether we're on the liberal side or the conservative side, all of these lies that not only have been told to us, but that we have told to ourselves. So, that takes a tremendous amount of courage to do that. So I'm seeing that what it's going to look like is maybe from these cards, I'm going to say, on the surface, it'll look like more people turning up in the streets. That on the 28th of the last day of the month, that they might be surprised at how many people don't spend money. Because you could say, like, maybe a disillusioned MAGA person may think, well, I won't go and shop, and then the other MAGA people in town, they don't really notice that sort of thing, but that's just starting to take some action. But I really see what this is as you see more people in the streets and pressuring, putting even more and then where it really counts is in those red states, really putting the pressure and knowing they have power over these people, like that Dr. douchebag guy in Georgia, that they have the power of yelling at him and not voting for him and taking him out of office. I think and then they realize their own personal power, and they don't have to be victims anymore. That this has been the party of victimhood. They must be getting kind of tired of that. That takes a lot of courage to break out of that. So I do want to thank Lena Rodriguez for giving me this topic today, and I think that it's going to be very interesting to see how this unfolds, because it'll be with both sides of the fence. So, and it is contagious, and it will become more so. But I'm going to say that the courage of facing one's own demons and seeing how that reflects in their political views, that's going to be very interesting to see that aspect of it. So, at any rate, again, I want to thank Dr. Lena Rodriguez for inspiring this so early. I don't usually get inspired that early in the day. And wish all of you a very good weekend. So I'm going to say bye for now.